Mirabelle, you're the best. I'm so into you I can't see anything else. I wish I had met you before my wife. I'm flattered, John. Let's get married, even now. I'll wait forever for you. That makes me laugh. He really can't see what's right in front of him. Despite me sneaking a peek at the scene right after coming home, he hasn't noticed me at all. Coming home about 3 hours early from a business trip, I caught my husband, John, cheating in the car, but managed to calmly gather video evidence. The luxury car he recently boasted about buying was shaking violently, almost like it was alive. My calmness stemmed from already knowing about my husband's affairs. Everything was already in place, and now, it was just a matter of dragging my husband and his affair partner through the mud. Though I knew what was coming, the bitterness was hard to hide. Clenching my back teeth and restraining my trembling hands, I swore to take my husband down thoroughly. Amidst the overwhelming sadness and anger, I pressed on with plans for revenge, carrying both my resentment and resolve. An hour had passed since the shocking discovery. My heart was still in turmoil, but my smartphone started ringing. I wanted to take a moment to breathe, but the incessant ringing forced me to pick up. Hello? What's up?
Talia! Finally, you picked up! Help me! The garage door won't open!
Oh, is that so? That's strange. It was fine when I used the car before my trip.
These things can break down any time, you know? Just hurry up and help me!
I could envision my husband trapped in a windowless, sealed space, panicking. His face was marked with unmanageable anger and frustration. Seeing him like this brought a strange sense of satisfaction to me. After all, it was I who devised this plan to lock him in this confined space. I had tampered with the shutter to make it impossible to open from the inside. Yet, I would not reveal this fact to my husband. After all, this was just the beginning of my revenge. Yeah, I guess you're right. I'm sorry for being so laid back since I wasn't there. Are you feeling okay? I'll head over to help right away.
No! I'm fine, thanks for worrying about me. Looks like I panicked a bit with the sudden situation. Talia, you must be tired from coming back from your trip too. So, if you could come in 30 minutes, that'd be great.
30 minutes? I can't just take my time. This is a big deal for you, isn't it?
No, it's okay. It's not like my life is at stake or anything. I'm more worried about the stress on you, Talia.
My husband is too desperate to realize the absurdity of what he's blurting out. Compared to the fatigue from work, being locked up should be a bigger concern for him. Still, his insistence on waiting must be out of fear that I might catch his affair partner if I come back too soon. What a foolish man. Unaware that I know everything already. I decided to gradually reveal my current situation. Thanks so much for worrying about my health. I'm touched, but really, I'm fine. Because I've already arrived at the garage.
What? Isn't that too soon?
Maybe it's a sixth sense. I just felt like I should come back early. Good thing I hurried. You're in such a tough spot. Hang on, I'll open it right now.
Wait! Don't open the shutter yet!
From beyond the shutter, I could directly hear my husband scream. I struggled to hold back my laughter. Laughing now would ruin the whole plan. Swallowing the urge to laugh, I cleared my throat before asking him. Why can't I open it? Is there something bad if I do? I don't see why not.
I'm actually naked right now. It got hot being in this sealed space. You know, it's still bright outside, and it'd be embarrassing if the shutter opened with me stark naked. Just give me a moment to put on some clothes.
It's December, but... I nearly blurted out a retort. Especially since today looks overcast, and it feels like it could snow any minute. The wind is cold, making the unlit garage feel freezing. Yet, I can't help but imagine the inside of the garage must be sweltering from the heat of passion. Between my husband and his affair partner. I coughed a bit louder than before, suppressing the barrage of retorts that nearly slipped out. I can't explode in anger in this situation. Staying calm is the best strategy right now. What's the big deal? We're married. Seeing you naked isn't going to shock me. Plus, it's a time of day when not many people are around, so no one will see. More importantly, if it's that hot inside, we need to get some fresh air in there. So, I'm gonna open it now.
Don't joke with me. Do you understand what I mean? I told you not to do anything unnecessary. A useless wife should just shut up and obey me.
Finally, my husband lost it and started yelling at me. His voice is so deep and loud that it's actually harder to understand him over the phone. It's easier to understand if I listen directly through the shutter now. I sighed heavily. Actually, I've become quite resistant to my husband's yelling. Because he's always looked down on me, yelling at the slightest sign of backtalk.
John, calm down a bit, will you? Calm down now? Who do you think got me this irritated? Keep joking around, and I'll discipline you several times harder than usual later.
The shouting husband was suddenly interrupted by a decisive voice. That voice was like a flower blooming in silence. Explain right now.
What exactly do you mean by several times harder than usual discipline? Huh?
The sudden voice of a third party made my husband stop talking abruptly. After a brief silence, he timidly asked. His voice was different from before, soft and a little confused.
That voice. Dad?
I'm here too.
Mom too? Why are you here? Wait, have you been listening to this conversation?
Don't worry, John.
The call's been on speaker the whole time, so every single foolish word of your tirade came through loud and clear. I heard every bit of our son's foolish outburst.
This time, the quiet is more from being dumbstruck than silent reflection. In fact, my husband works at his father's company, and for him, his father is not just a parent but also a boss whose presence is too imposing to rise above at the company. Right now, my husband's mind must be racing. Why his parents are here, how long they've been here, and why I got to the garage so early. The moment all these questions are answered will be his downfall. His parents are completely on my side. With a signal from me, both of them agreed and joined in the confrontation with my husband. We heard, John. The garage door's stuck, isn't it? That's quite a predicament. Yet, why can't it be opened now? Exactly. And it's so hot inside you had to strip? What if something happens to you? You're the one I'm counting on at the company. Your safety is the top priority. So, we're opening it now, said his father, reaching for the shutter's handle. The slight vibration and noise must have made my husband inside realize it was about to be opened. The shutter, having lifted just a bit, slammed shut again with a loud clang.
Wait! It's really a mess inside right now. Actually, while I was there, I had an accident. It's all flooded.
All flooded? This surprised my mother-in-law so much her voice flipped. My father-in-law and I couldn't help but burst out laughing, covering our mouths with our hands and shaking our shoulders. Rationally, since I had tampered with the shutter, it hasn't even been an hour, so there's no way the garage could be flooded that much from an accident. We knew this, but the sheer panic in my husband's voice and his outrageous lie hit us with a double punch, tickling our funny bone. The comedic power was astonishing, enough to surprise even comedians.
What are you talking about, John? A little water in the garage won't change our love for you. Besides, think about it. You used to flood the bathroom all the time.
It's hardly a new topic.
When was that? Don't lump a baby's accidents with those of an adult over 30. A grown man flooding the place would want to disappear from embarrassment.
What are you saying? Let me reveal something now. I'm over 60.
As you get to a certain age, you start to revert to being like a baby again. Meaning, any moment could be a thrilling, suspense-filled day of wet surprises, the beginning of a dizzying series of days.
Can we move on from the topic of flooding already? My abs are about to burst. My mother-in-law is even crouched down, hands on the ground. To save everyone's abs present, I hurriedly sent the evidence video to my husband's smartphone. Immediately, my husband's voice, which had been arguing with his father, stopped abruptly. Instead, through the slight gap between the shutter and the ground, the heated exchange between my husband and his affair partner leaked out. Yes, the video I had recorded before locking them in.
What's this? Why is there such a video?
I whispered almost to myself, then I approached the shutter to tell him the truth. Surprised? Actually, I know everything. That you're in there with your affair partner right now. Because, John, I was the one who locked you two in there. I came home 3 hours earlier than planned today. So, I got a perfect view of you two enjoying yourselves in the car. I couldn't help but record diligently until just before. It's precious evidence, after all.
What? Then, the reason why my parents are here is…
Of course, because I called them. A murmured seriously came from inside as I smiled slightly. As I stepped back, my in-laws began to confront my husband. You must realize by now, we've been aware that you and your affair partner were inside from the beginning. Now, I want to hear it from you again. Is it true that you had an affair? We got involved in this charade because we wanted to hear the explanation from you. Both my father-in-law and mother-in-law spoke calmly, yet their voices were laced with a quiet anger. The tension would make even me break out in a cold sweat, so the pressure on my husband, being directly confronted, must be immense. Yet, he chose to burst into laughter. Come on, Dad, Mom. You're not up to date with the latest video technology. This is a fake video. Remember, like those composite photos that were all the rage back in the day? Used in tabloids, that kind of thing. It's possible to do the same with videos. Why would Talia have a fake video with your face on it? Yeah. It takes some know-how and effort to make something like this, right? Actually, it's embarrassing to air our marital issues, but we've been fighting more since I've started being away from home more for work. Talia got angry and decided to get back at me. How quickly lies roll off his tongue. And he's trying to shift the blame onto me. He must be really scared of getting glared at by his parents. My husband's brain must be working overtime right now. But such a makeshift defense could never convince these two. Because they are my reliable allies.
Enough already. Making up baseless excuses about the garage being flooded or Talia harassing you is disgraceful. If you had just apologized sincerely here, it might have improved your standing somewhat. Why is it that those who err so easily are irredeemably foolish? I'm disappointed to think you are the child I bore and suffered for.
Anger and disappointment. Even while facing relentless attacks from his closest family, my husband refused to give up. Sure, giving up would mean the end of the game, but not giving up could also lead to the same outcome.
It's not like that, Dad, Mom. You two are being deceived by Talia. She might act like an angel in front of you, but her behavior at home is atrocious. She's sloppy with household chores and hardly takes care of me. She lives like she's the only one that matters. I've been through hell. Everything she says and does is wrapped in lies.
Listening to my husband's speech, as if he were a politician at a rally, left me astounded. How he can persist in lying to others is beyond me. If my husband intends to twist the facts to his advantage, then I must counter thoroughly with the truth. I decided to send another video.
What's this? Another video has been sent, but adding more fakes won't hurt or itch me, huh?
My husband seemed to notice something off as he carefully watched the video. The first video sent was shot as if peeking inside the car. However, this new one looked as though it was taken from a corner of the garage, overviewing the entire area. Surely, my husband must be turning around to check the back of the garage by now. Yes, in fact, there was a surveillance camera installed inside the garage. So, everything from the scene of the affair to the storm of excuses that followed was laid bare for us.
Wait, was there a camera in the garage?
Of course, I installed it.
Since when? There wasn't one at the beginning.
Since John bought that luxury car. My husband's voice shot up in surprise. I couldn't help but laugh. Surprised? But, John, you weren't really interested in cars before, right? Suddenly getting into specs and all that, I naturally thought something was up.
You installed surveillance cameras just on a hunch? Indoor ones cost between $2,000 and $4,000, right? That's not exactly a small purchase.
Oh, never underestimate a woman's intuition. But I didn't buy it on a whim. I went through John's phone and car when he was asleep. Checking messages, the trash. I found quite compelling evidence of infidelity. That's when I decided to install the camera for even stronger evidence.
When did you?
My husband's words trailed off. There was no longer any resistance to opening the shutter. My in-laws and I finally opened the shutter and stormed in. In the dim light, my husband and his affair partner stood trembling. Both were dressed, faces ashen. His parents stepped forward to confront them again.
So?
Will we finally get an answer now? Did you really have an affair? Realizing he could no longer dodge the question, my husband reluctantly began to explain. Since I started working as my father's successor, I've always felt pressured. The more I learned about the business, the more I realized how great a businessman my father is, and I doubted if I could ever be like him. I was carrying this unbearable stress every day.
Your father is indeed strict. It's not that you were overly sensitive. It's natural to feel pressured. But that doesn't justify everything.
I regret having an affair. But I felt like I had no other choice to escape this stress.
Don't try to justify your affair. No matter the reason, betraying your family is never acceptable.
My heart swelled with warmth. No matter what excuses my husband made, my in-laws stood by my side. Despite being blood-related to my husband, I felt honored to be considered their daughter-in-law. My husband quietly bowed his head to me. I'm sorry, Talia. But it was just a one-time mistake today. Please, forgive me, he said, bending deeply again. Seeing my husband's earnest behavior, I burst into uncontrollable laughter without any concern for who might see. My husband and in-laws stared at me with dumbfounded expressions. After my fit of laughter, I pointed towards the affair partner. Take a good look at her face. Doesn't she look familiar?
Familiar?
Following my direction, the in-laws took a closer look at the affair partner. My father-in-law gasped.
You're Mr. Kirk's daughter, aren't you?
Mr. Kirk is the CEO of a company that does business with my father-in-law's company. In other words, my husband's affair partner was the daughter of a CEO.
What? No way! I didn't know that. She never mentioned anything about being Mr. Kirk's daughter. And Mr. Kirk is an incredibly important business partner, isn't he?
That's right. Didn't I say that earlier? I know everything. Of course, that includes investigating Mirabelle Kirk, the affair partner.
How much do you know? You're aware of things even I don't know.
Since you bought that new car, I've been suspecting you of having an affair. Naturally, I thoroughly investigated everything from corner to corner. I even hired a professional. It was during that process that I found out about Mirabelle. Smiling with a graceful curve on my lips, my husband seemed to shiver as if chilled. He took a step or two back as I watched him, eyes narrowed like a fox. John, you said it was a one-time mistake, but you've actually met Mirabelle several times, haven't you?
No, that's not true. It really was only this time.
It's futile. I've been letting you swim only to corner you perfectly. As I revealed all the truths, my husband stood there, dumbfounded. Then, slowly, he turned to face his affair partner.
Mirabelle, why did you approach me? If I had known you were the daughter of my father's business partner, I never would have done this.
I just wanted to gain an advantage. For the deals with your company. I wanted to make contracts under conditions favorable for us. That's why I approached you. Lucky for me, you were easy to deceive. Mirabelle laughed lightly, and my husband screamed with a red face.
You really had me fooled.
It's your fault for being deceived. I was just doing my best for my company. Watching the two blame each other, my in-laws had faces full of disbelief. My father-in-law, incredulous, held his head and gestured for them to stop their verbal brawl. Mirabelle, what you've done is outrageous. Of course, my son is also at fault for his thoughtless actions despite being married, but we can't just overlook what you've done. We'll have to report this to your father.
What? No way! This is something that happened outside of work. Don't tell Dad. You know, Dad and Mom can be really scary when they're angry.
Gone was the villainous facade, replaced by Mirabelle pleading in fear. Then, my mother-in-law raised her voice.
All you've been doing is spouting selfish things. Do you understand that having an affair is a serious wrongdoing? A grown adult acting so disgracefully. Someone who can't take responsibility for their actions should start over from being a baby.
Overwhelmed by her sternness, Mirabelle couldn't utter another word. Finally, silence fell inside the garage. Neither my husband nor Mirabelle had anything more to say, seemingly defeated at last. But in the next moment, Mirabelle suddenly entered the car and turned the key that was still inserted in the ignition. The engine roared to life, surprising everyone present.
Hey Mirabelle? What are you planning to do with my car? Shut up. If this gets out to Dad, I'm finished. I need to get away before that happens.
In a panic, Mirabelle kept crashing the car into the garage walls, trying to break out. The abnormal crashing sounds attracted the neighbors, who started to gather. At this rate, someone might get hurt. I immediately called the police. My father-in-law was desperately pleading with Mirabelle to come to her senses. My mother-in-law had collapsed on the spot, overwhelmed, and my husband was screaming at the deforming luxury car. 10 minutes later, loud sirens echoed around the house, and the driveway was crowded with onlookers. Surrounded by police officers, Mirabelle finally snapped back to reality.
Police? Why are there so many here?
Mirabelle Kirk, you are under arrest for vandalism.
Arrested? No, why me?
As Mirabelle showed resistance to the officers trying to detain her, a deep voice boomed from behind.
Enough, Mirabelle. Dad? Why are you here? Where I am is not the issue. You have done something unforgivable. Please forgive me.
The sudden appearance of Mr. Kirk left my in-laws and husband speechless. In fact, I had already been in contact with Mr. Kirk and exchanged contact information. I had sent him the video of the affair and informed him in advance to come over.
Dad, don't be so mad. I just wanted to do something for you.
That's no excuse for an affair. Not to mention damaging someone else's property. You've done something irreversible. There's nothing to be done now. Officers, I apologize for my daughter causing trouble. Please take her.
Wait, Dad. Don't abandon me. Dad.
And so, Mirabelle was taken away by the officers. My husband watched, stunned. I delivered the final blow to my husband. You're standing there stunned, but this is the result of your affair, you know? Do you realize how much trouble you've caused so many people? Never forget today. You'll have to live with this guilt for the rest of your life.
I'm sorry.
My husband collapsed to his knees.
I'm sorry.
Turning away from my husband, who continued to apologize while crying, I left the scene. Afterward, my husband was fired from his job, and my in-laws cut ties with him. Similarly, Mirabelle was kicked out by her parents. They blamed each other for who was more at fault, leading to a hostile atmosphere. In the end, they went their separate ways. Having lost their homes, they ended up living in shabby apartments, working part-time jobs to pay off their debts, leading lonely lives. My in-laws apologized to me once again. We thought we were doing what was best for our son by being strict, but maybe that was a mistake. That's not true. You were strict, but it was out of love. John must have understood your feelings, but he chose to run away to an affair because he disliked hardship. I'm starting a new life too, but I want to choose the path of facing challenges, not running away. Talia. Yes, I believe you can do it. If you ever have any trouble, just let us know. We're always on your side. Thank you. With the warm smiles of my in-laws, the second chapter of my life began.